All right, so today we're going to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is things you're going to love about living here in Tampa Bay and things you're probably going to hate. Now, let me just start out by saying this. Today's video is not meant to be one of those negative gloom and doom because, as you can see, it is the middle of March. I'm standing on the Gulf of America now, and there are plenty of people enjoying the sun and the sand and the salty air, which is exactly why we moved here over 6 years ago. And honestly, do not regret that decision. So I want to start there because oftentimes when you see headlines or titles like you saw in this video, you know, people come in and they just bash relentlessly about how things suck. But today is not going to be that. I am going to share the things we love about living here. I'm also going to share some things that are some of the worst of living here in Tampa Bay. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Juan Alcalá. We make videos that are all things Tampa Bay, what it's like to live here, what it's like to work here, what it's like to play here, the food, the dining, the outdoors, the beaches, and the sunshine. And as you can see, we are taking advantage of that today.
Are you in the vlog?
What's up? Yeah, say hello.
What's up, guys?
What's up?
We're in Indian Rock.
Where are you guys from? Up north. Up north, obviously.
Yep. Okay. You can tell, right? You can tell.
Oh, no.
Old Bert took about one day.
Well, whoever's in the water isn't from here.
Yeah.
That's always a dead giveaway. Yeah, the water's cold.
Water is great.
And then that happens on day one, and then you suffer the rest of the week.
I got this on. Protect myself.
Yeah. All good. We're from Detroit originally, so yeah, you kind of get through it. But
They cut a nice dish over there.
yeah,
You got a YouTube channel? Is that what it is?
I do.
Oh,
Yep.
nice. What is it called?
Yeah, it's called Living in Tampa.
Living in Tampa.
Yep.
Living in Tampa. All right.
Yeah, and it's always fun to be engaged when we're out here on the beach just talking about what's happening. Now, first thing to love, obviously, people have a great time here, and you know they wanted to jump in and say hello, and I love the opportunity to engage with anybody who recognizes us or enjoys the content that we make. But the big thing for us is, you know, most people move here for lifestyle. I know that's why we moved here. You know, when we came down the first time and stood on this beach, it was actually January of 2017. It was a really cold day. The wind was blowing like 50, it felt like 50 miles an hour, but it was probably blowing like 20 miles an hour, which is not abnormal. And it was 50 degrees, and being from up north, it was still beautiful. Poor Kate and my daughter at that point they had fevers, and they were at the Airbnb, and my son and I came down here, and then we went down to Guppy's here in Indian Rocks Beach and just had a wonderful time together. And it was awesome. There were shells all over the beach, and we loved it. And we really started to fall in love with the area. Now, that's why most people move here, because the sun's shining and the beach and all those things that people love about Florida. But the other side of that, the things that you can't see and you may not know yet are, you know, if you're going to live here, you know, especially for us, we live just over 1.9 miles away from this beach. And every year, every summer, every hurricane season, you are faced with the real threat of having to board up our house. Now, I've been here for 6 summers. This will be our 7th summer. 3 of the 6 summers, we've had to board up our house, and twice we've had to evacuate because of the threat of hurricanes. And last year, if you've been following our journey on our channel, you know that during Hurricane Milton, even though that did not hit right here in Indian Rocks Beach, we got 12 inches of rain in about 6 hours, and my home took on water. And we're still in the middle of that renovation 5 months later. Now, is that the reality for most people? No. But is that a concern, and is it a fear? And can it wear on people, this constant, perpetual, do I have to deal with hurricanes this year? And the answer to that is yes. And honestly, that's one of the things that suck. And I'm not gonna lie. You know, people talk for years about how like the bugs were a huge problem. And where we live, we've always got this nice coastal breeze. We don't have a real problem with mosquitoes. As a matter of fact, we have less mosquitoes here than we did when we lived in Metro Detroit. So that's not a thing for us. But the further you go out inland, you get near swampy areas, that's going to be a problem for you. But there is a tremendous amount of wildlife here in the state of Florida. And if that makes you uncomfortable, it's something you're going to want to have to think through, because it is, dare I say, Jumanji-like. I mean, there's everything from venomous snakes here to Florida panthers. That's where the name came from. You know, obviously alligators. We got crocodiles when you go further south. We don't have that here in Tampa, but in the state we do. So this is something you got to be mindful of. And this lifestyle exchange is where a lot of people really, you know, this is where the rubber hits the road, is the best way for me to say this, because it's not for everybody. And the traffic here has grown exponentially over the last 5 years alone, with moving over 1,000 people a day to the Tampa Bay area. And we're now up to roughly 3.3 million in population, which is pretty big. Now, Tampa is what I would consider a little big city. The epicenter of downtown Tampa, super clean, nice area to go hang out, but it's not built for families. And what I mean by that is there's no single family homes in downtown Tampa. It's all high rise and condos. A lot of young professionals live there. It's a great place to hang out. It's a really young city, roughly 36 years of age on average, which most people don't recognize that, but Tampa's really young. Then you go over to St. Pete and you get a really good mix of that balance. You come out here to the coast and you definitely have your mix of retirees and young families. And, I'm 47 years old and I see a lot of direct reflection of me living here. And for you, that may be a pro, maybe a con. I'm not quite sure, but lifestyle is the biggest focus of most of our clients who choose to move here. And if you weren't aware, I am a real estate professional. We've actually helped over 100 families relocate here to the Tampa Bay area in the last 3 years alone. And it's something I've really come to love. And what better way to serve than the person you once were, right? And we went through this journey and we just learned one of the toughest lessons. And I'm grateful that none of our clients have been affected by these storms recently. But the reality is that's a challenge of living in Florida. Bugs and pests are a challenge of living in Florida. Heat. Now, this is another thing. You'll hear people say that it's unbearable for 10 months out of the year, and that's just not true. It's the middle of March, it's 73 degrees, and as you look around here on this beach, there are people everywhere taking advantage of what life has to offer here. And it starts in November, the humidity basically falls off the cliff, temperature is amazing, and it's that version of Florida that everybody wants, right? I want to put flip-flops on, I want to wear a t-shirt and go outside. And then here in Tampa, when you get into middle of January, coming in middle of February there, that's our winter. And it usually lasts about a month, sometimes 3 weeks, just depends on the year. It can get pretty cool. I mean, we've had high 30s at night. And it usually gets somewhere in the high 40s to 70 degrees during the day in that January, February stretch there. And then the sun pops back out and you start getting sunburns and tan lines again like I got right now here in the early March months. And it's just awesome. But on the complete other side of that, starting in June for sure, sometimes at the end of May, but June, July, August, September, and even October are just hot and what I would call downright oppressive. Now, some people are wired for that. I actually still run during the day because if I'm going to sweat, I might as well get it all out, right? Not everybody does that, and I'm not encouraging everybody to do that either. But there are people who love the heat. They love the humid, moist air along with that heat. And I definitely prefer that over snow. And we moved from Metro Detroit. We moved 1,200 miles south here, and I'll trade, sweating through my clothes, taking 2 showers a day, any day of the week over having to shovel snow, having your doors be stuck, having your nostrils stick together. And I know that's not everybody's experience, but it is definitely why we chose to move here and why we continue to move here. My friends asked, they're like, dude, after what you guys had happen and the flood, and are you moving? And the answer is no. Is it been convenient? No, it as a matter of fact, it has sucked. And forgive me for using that word so many times, but I want to make sure that I'm being as transparent about this as I humanly can, right? As I possibly can, because it's not just about what's behind me. While yes, that is amazing, and I absolutely love it, and you probably will too, we don't get in that water every day. And it's one of those things that, the guys are just standing here right now, we were talking to, like, if you're in the water right now, we know you're not from here. Because that water is cold. It is not where you want to be in it. But our first year, you better believe our kids were in that water in January and they were loving it, and they still do. Now, as an adult, I'm not getting in that water for another at least month, probably month and a half. And then it's going to be amazing. And then it gets hot. And then the water gets hot. And the best way I could describe it is that right around August, you basically just go from dry to wet because the temperature between the Gulf and the air temperature aren't really much different. And it got up to 90 degrees, 88, 90 degrees last year, which is very, very warm for water. And it's pretty shallow. It's nice. Allows you to mess around out there. But again, that's not for everybody. It may not be for you. So just keep those things in mind before moving here and making any irrational decisions. Now, those are a few things, right? So we talked about like weather, we talked about traffic, which I think most people talk about. We talked about the hurricanes, which is definitely not something you want to be involved in. But there's other things to consider too, right? You're leaving your family. If you're moving away from family, that can be hard. It's not for everybody. At some point, somebody in the family has to be the pioneer if they're going to move away. But it's not always easy. There have been times when our kids, my daughter has cried for her grandmother, and fortunately, we are in a situation where we can, her grandmother could pop on a plane and be down here in 2.5 hours. And, she doesn't work, and it's a blessing to have her around the house. But the last 5 months, we've been living in an RV. That's not really an option, right? So some challenging moments. And I think one of the biggest fears that adults have, maybe, a dad or a mom, is how are we going to make friends, right? And honestly, that was a huge concern for us. We didn't necessarily say it out loud because we were afraid to say it probably. It was just one of those things we internalized. We were afraid for the kids not to make friends, but man, these communities are so welcoming because there are a lot of people who have transplanted here from somewhere else. And one of the most common questions that I often get is, hey, where are you from? And people only ask that when you live in an area that actually is pretty transient. So think about that, right? And you go to the parks and people are very inviting and they're welcoming. The kids play together. Next thing you're having a conversation with a parent, and invites are made, and church opportunities exist, and there's just a lot of different ways to make a connection, not just sitting around in your HOA or some things like that, but parks. And parks are a big one for us. We've met a lot of people at parks. Obviously beach here, because people who come here are typically sun worshipers of some level, and they love to soak up the rays. They love the salt water. They love walking the beach, getting their toes wet in the sand. These are all things that are important to a lot of us who live here. And ultimately, when it comes down to making decisions like this, I always say due diligence. Do your homework and understand that it's not just about this. And as much as this is beautiful, eventually it just becomes another thing. Now, it's probably an unfair way to say that, but it becomes something that you become very accustomed to. All right, it's that old adage of you don't know what you got until it's gone. Well, I used to come down here every day. Rain or shine, I would make it down to the beach, put my toes in the water, watch a sunset. And then as the years have gone on, that's become less and less frequent. And I still love it. And every time I come down here, I always wonder why I'm not down here more. But life happens. We all have to do the things, to keep our families going, to keep our lifestyle going, whatever it is for you. But just know that this isn't going to be the only thing, right? You're going to have to work. You're going to have to engage with your family. You're going to have challenges just like anybody else would, no matter where you live. Do the pros outweigh the cons when it comes to living here in Tampa Bay? For us, the answer is unequivocally yes. I think I answered that earlier. For you, that might not be the case. But what I would say is do your homework, do your research, dig into the communities that match your ideal lifestyle, and I promise you, you'll find something. There is something here for everyone. Is it right for you? Only you will know that. And if you have more questions regarding the area, if you want to dig in, reach out to me and the team. My contact information is down below. There's a link to my calendar so you can schedule a time that's most convenient for you. I'm happy to jump on Zoom, unpack the area. I'll pull up Google Maps, walk you through the areas, match the correct communities to the ideal lifestyle that you're describing to us. You can do diligence. You can come down and visit them. And if it's something that makes sense for you and your family, you can make the leap, and we're happy to help you do it. I love spending time with you guys. Thank you for the beach walk today. I know I haven't done a video like this in so long, but I'm happy just to get out here. Weather's perfect, and hope where you are, the sun is shining as well. And I'll finish with this because my friends still ask me to this day, Juan, what is the biggest difference between living in Tampa Bay and back here in Detroit? And I always say the same thing. You do not have to shovel sunshine. And with that in mind, I hope you guys have an incredible day. Go out and live that Tampa life.